week's Three Legs, Four Wheels F1 podcast. It's Paul here with...
Chris.
Lee? Oh.
Yeah, there's only three of us today.
Yeah, we are Seanless tonight. Get well soon. I'm shouting up 2 flights of stairs, but I probably shouldn't be, just in case I wake her up. Because she's feeling a little bit under the weather, so she's decided to take a night off tonight. I think she got worn out by the Austrian Grand Prix.
Maybe
it was good, wasn't it?
It was all right, yeah. It was. We had a couple of decent races now in a row, and I was just about to say something else that's worn out after the Austrian Grand Prix is definitely Carlos Sainz's Ferrari.
Oh
yeah,
that is the biggest blow up I've seen in a long time.
Have you seen the video of the guy who runs towards the car with the fire extinguisher, then puts it down halfway there and turns around and runs the other way?
Yes,
It's on fire!
I was watching that when it happened, and there was 3 of us in the room watching it, and we were all shouting, "What are you doing, you crazy fucker? It's on fire! Put the damn thing out!"
Put the fire out first. Stop the car later.
Yeah, there was a lot of headless chicken nonsense going on, wasn't there?
Yeah, to be fair, I know it was panic mode because obviously Sainz is being told that he's on fire. Get out! You're on fire! Get out! You're on fire! Get out! But if he just turned that wheel to the left, the back wheel would have not caught on the fence, not on the fence. Yeah. You know what I mean? On the boarding there, and just sort of stopped, stopped rolling. But obviously he was a bit of a panic. Not something.
Bit of a tizzy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't know what to do if you were sat in a car and it suddenly burst into flames, though.
Yes, you would.
I think
yourself from that car.
Yeah, I think you move yourself from the car, but I think you'd probably want to get out as quickly as possible, especially if a fire is spreading that quickly, and you can see it in your mirrors.
Yeah,
I thought so. Yeah, it wasn't just the engine went, because when they cut away from it, I was like, oh no, this is going to be like one of those things. It literally just like explodes. Luckily, we never saw that.
I mean, I wonder if it was any worse. I wonder if that fire was any worse, or whether it's just the fact that the cars have got the cutouts in it, so it gives the fire a place to escape and come through.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, that's the first time I've actually seen an engine shoot its pistons out.
Yeah, well, there's bits of metal all over the floor, wasn't there? Sparking everywhere. So it wasn't just it was a proper pop, not your engine's just failing. Just deal with it. Yeah, it was a bang.
Yeah.
Similar to when Magnussen's engine went in the McLaren Honda, when he was on his warm-up lap after Fernando Alonso didn't get electrocuted.
Yes, that went with a
with metal everywhere.
Yes, I seem to recall that happening, yeah. And didn't it happen to Vettel once as well? Again, on an installation lap. In a Ferrari.
That's true, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, possibly.
It'll be Charles Leclerc's turn next time, because Ferrari don't seem to be able to beat Red Bull without blowing their cars up the next race.
and of course, if we're talking about fire, it used to happen to poor Julian Palmer every single week.
Most unlucky driver, I was going to say ever. He's clearly not the most unlucky driver ever. He's not even the most unlucky British driver ever, but he's a pretty unlucky driver, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, if it could go wrong, it did, and he got blamed for it. And I know we gave him stick at the time, but looking back, a lot of what happened to him definitely wasn't his fault.
I kept the faith. I think you'll find. I always said he had bad luck.
Checks the archives.
I think I've been pretty consistently on Team Palmer.
Well, no, you like him as a podcaster.
He's actually quite a good pundit with like the way he gets into stuff. I wasn't sure about.
He's not just quite good. He's the best Formula One pundit right now.
Yeah, the best. I don't know if that's a hard one. I don't know if there's anybody.
He'd have to come on the show to prove he was the best one. We've been trying. We have been trying.
Present company excluded.
Oh, thank you. One other thing we were doing this weekend, just want to say thanks to our friends at the Sim Centre for an absolutely fantastic day on Saturday.
Yeah.
It was great fun. I genuinely had so much fun in that place.
Yeah, I mean, the picture of me sat in the, let's be honest, it's an F2 cockpit that's done up like the 94 Williams. It looks cool. And to be honest with you, seeing me sat in that car, I'm like, hey, that looks cool. I was fucking awful when it actually came to doing anything in that car. So much to the point where I was just like, I really can't be arsed now because I'm doing so badly in this rig.
You're doing yourself down, Chris. You did get the fastest time around the Nordschleife.
I did, out of everybody who was there.
I didn't get to go around the Nordschleife.
No, not everyone did. I think that's why I managed to get the fastest time.
Well, we will have to we'll have to go back again and give it another go. And thanks to Matt Steele for joining us at the weekend as well. Came all the way over from Los Angeles just to do a virtual lap of the TT course.
Well, sort of, yes.
Well, he had been working in London for a month, but he came over.
There is that, yeah.
So, yeah, if anybody who listens to this finds themselves on the Isle of Man and fancies an afternoon sim racing, give us a shout because, we don't need much of an excuse to go back there now, do we?
No. I'll go
Absolutely
back there tomorrow.
Right, shall we have a look back at the Grand Prix? Because I don't think there's a great deal in the way of news to start with, but we'll do some Monday news afterwards.
Well, do you want to do news first?
Oh, do you want to do the news first? About £400 million worth of news.
You could do that bit if you want.
Chump change.
So, Bernie Ecclestone has been charged with fraud over... Now, we've got to be very careful what we say here, so I'm just going to quote the articles that I've read. And we're not going to have any conjecture over this because he has got a lot of high-powered lawyers. But he's been charged with fraud over £400 million worth of overseas assets that he's been under investigation by HMRC, which is the UK's tax body for the government.
Yeah.
And the Crown Prosecution Service issued a statement today, Monday the 11th, saying it had authorised the charging of Bernard Charles Ecclestone with fraud by false representation following a HMRC investigation. So, and they also said, and this is where it comes into us, it's extremely important that there should be no reporting, commentary, or sharing of information online which could in any way prejudice these proceedings. So,
absolutely.
So let's talk about it.
So we're allowed to report that it's happened. So the facts are that Bernie Ecclestone has been charged. He obviously presumed innocent until found guilty, but this is definitely going to be one to keep an eye on over the coming months.
Yes,
because it looks like it may be going to court.
And it has nothing to do with what he said about Vladimir Putin the week before.
No. But he would take a bullet for him. But we did that one last week.
But it has nothing to do with that.
But it has nothing to do with that.
No.
And I mean, that's unusually a Monday news story.
Yeah.
Something that actually happened today. In other news, do we talk about the ERA Championship now?
Do you want to do that now, or do you want to do the video that went up on Twitter today?
I think we'll do the video first. Colton Hurt has been testing the 2021 McLaren at Portimao.
Yes.
And thanks to regular listener, friend of the podcast, amazing architect and great iRacing livery designer Adam Smith, who just happened to be on holiday in Portugal this week. And
managed to stand outside the circuit and film.
Just managed to get to the circuit. We've got footage of it. So if you haven't seen it already, we tweeted it out earlier on this afternoon, and 150,000 people have watched it so far.
Wow. This is only Monday evening we're recording this.
It's 130,000 as it stands 4 hours after it went up. Have a look. He's driving last year's McLaren in this year's livery. McLaren haven't released the times yet, but it's going to be interesting to see what comes of this, because personally I think that he's getting his mileage in so he can get his Friday licence so they can run him in FP1 as a rookie driver at the end of the IndyCar season, which of course finishes in September, so there's still quite a few races to go in F1 by then.
Yeah.
Don't know what you guys think.
I think you're right, and I think they're positioning themselves to replace Daniel Ricciardo next year.
There are two drivers. There are two drivers testing for McLaren in Portimao. The other driver is McLaren F1 test and development driver Will Stevens.
Good name.
You must remember Will Stevens.
I miss Will Stevens. I quite liked him.
The Cockney chimney sweep.
Yeah.
Was he called Grosjean a Muppet over the radio?
Yeah.
Is that him?
Yeah.
I mean, if Guy Ritchie had invented an F1 driver.
Yeah. So Colton Herta and Will Stevens are doing it, but the Pato Award has already done a test. Do we think these two?
Because Pato Award did the Young Drivers Test after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix last year.
Yeah. So do we think these two, either Colton Herta or Pato Award? We know McLaren are sort of branching out across many forms of racing. IndyCar, Formula E, Formula One,
Extreme E.
Yeah, Extreme E. So do we think that McLaren are looking to switch drivers maybe for cross promotional purposes? There we go. That's what I'm looking for.
Well, this is the thing, you see, because Colton Herta currently isn't contracted to McLaren. He's just got a test drive deal with them because in IndyCar he races for Andretti. Who obviously were trying to get into Formula One, but the teams have put the kibosh on that for the time being. But McLaren, as we talked about last week, have signed Alex Rossi, and they're in a position now where they've got the potential for more drivers than seats. I think it was Sean that found out that they're planning on entering a third car in Indy next season.
Right. Okay.
But of course,
so that would free up one seat. But I mean,
they're taking over the Mercedes Formula E team next year. And, as we said again last week, the seat's currently held by Nick De Vries and Stoffel. Now, they tried before they bide with them two.
They did, and they got rid, and then Mercedes picked them up and made Nick De Vries the first Dutch motorsport world champion.
Yeah, still can't get my head around that. So, I mean, McLaren are obviously in massive expansion mode.
Do we think this is Ricciardo on his way out, or preparation for if he decides to go, or of McLaren, or are they just sizing up drivers to make a decision?
I think that
I don't think there's any chance of being in that car next year.
I think he'll start the season. I mean, Zach Brown said that they've got every intention of him running next year, but because he did have a caveat on there. He needs to, display Lando levels of performance.
Which is obviously not going to happen because they're not even going to start update. They're not going to update the car now. They've called it a day on development of the McLaren this year.
Have they already? I missed that. Where did you see that?
That it was on the race podcast. Morris Hamilton was talking about it. So I just don't see. I don't see where he's going to be able to. If he doesn't fit now, and he hasn't fitted it last year, apart from like a race, I just don't see where it's going to come right for him now.
Well,
I don't want to see this.
Well, I think what Zach Brown meant was next year he wants Lando levels of performance from him.
I think he meant this year. I wouldn't. I think it would be insane if he carries on this season the way he's going, for McLaren to want him in the car next year. It would be mental. Because it's not. This isn't just a problem with. It's not just a problem that's happened. Oh, it's a problem that's happened over two separate formulas of Formula One now with McLaren. Like the whole thing last year was. Well, he's not getting on with that car. Whole new car next year. Whole new car. Old Daniel Ricciardo will be back. A whole new car comes around. He's still half a second behind Lando. He's been on the verge. Did he go out in Q1 in Silverstone? When did he go out in Silverstone? There was a thing where he either went out in Q1 or he was on the bubble of going out in Q1, and Lando was in the top 5. I remember that qualifying session well. I mean, it's if it wasn't Daniel Ricciardo, and everybody likes Daniel Ricciardo, we would be fucking roasting him.
Quite right, yeah, and we would if it was Alex Albon at Red Bull, for example,
or if it was Alex Albon doing that to Latifi.
Yeah, well, we say the same thing about Latifi because Latifi was put in his place by Russell.
Yeah,
last year, and now
he got through Q1. He finished 14th in Q1 and 14th in Q2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know.
And 13th in the race.
McLaren aren't where they want to be at the moment, and the only reason I can think that they might hold off on changing drivers for a year is because they maybe think that they need to change. It's going to take time to change, and it's not going to be maybe for a couple of years before they're back to where they were, say, last year before that, maybe, where they're fighting for podiums when a team has a bad race.
I think there's something fundamental about the way McLaren goes about building racing cars that doesn't get on with Daniel Ricciardo's style of driving.
Yeah, well, there is. Yeah, that is, you referenced the race before. There is a fantastic. It was Scott Mansell. I think I mentioned it on last week's pod about the. He's done a video. Why does
I haven't watched it yet? Is it good?
Yeah, it is good. Yeah,
yeah.
Why does Ricciardo struggle? And he explained why Daniel Ricciardo's driving style doesn't work for McLaren and how it's so difficult for him to adapt to how the McLaren works. And it appears that Lando Norris is just one of his strengths is adapting very quickly.
Yeah. See, the issue you've got is you can't with the performances that Ricciardo's been putting in, you can't put all your eggs in Ricciardo basket and go, right, we're going to solve this issue, change how we go about building racing cars to make the car easier for Daniel Ricciardo to build. Because you've no
that's
guarantee.
Not what they're doing, is it? I mean, they're nowhere near where they want to be, though. McLaren are falling backwards.
But I don't think that it's not because they're not falling backwards because of this problem Ricciardo's got. Because the gap's still there. The both cars are sliding back into the field. Don't get me wrong,
but the gap between the cars is still there.
It's still the same. I just can't see it. I can't see him still being in the car next year. I hope he can find a drive. The idea that how old is he? What, 32? I think.
Yeah, Ricciardo sounds about right.
Yeah, the idea that the guy that looked like we could have a Australian world champion when he was in Red Bull beat Sebastian Vettel at the time, the 4-time world champion. Like, indestructible to some extent for years, Sebastian Vettel beat him out of Red Bull, and then to see what's happened to him since those years, I mean, he probably would have ended up with Max seriously getting on top of him. I think that Ricciardo would still be closer to Max than Perez is. The idea that we've gone from that to a couple of mediocre years in Renault, then a move to McLaren, which has been an absolute disaster to the point that this guy's 32, should essentially be in the absolute prime of his racing career, and he might not be on the grid next year. That's bonkers.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely bonkers. Because he's a great driver, but he's not extracting his maximum, or not able to extract the maximum that he possibly could from that McLaren. Maybe the McLaren move, as good as it looked at the time, just hasn't worked out for Daniel.
No.
And I do wonder if this Colton Herta test to get him the mileage for an FP1, because don't forget, all Formula One teams have to put, in inverted commas, a young driver. I mean, Colton Herta's still, 22, 23? Let's put young driver in. 2 FP1s, is it, Paul? Did you say before?
Yeah, it's 2 FP1s, although Alfa Romeo don't because
Kubica's 83.
Well, no, they had the Lupo Le Guan Yu Zhou Guan Yu. It's they have to have 2 FP1s contested by a driver that hasn't done more than 2 Grand Prix.
Well, they did that at the beginning of the season.
They did that at the beginning of the season, so Alfa Romeo don't have to do it, and that's why AlphaTauri didn't have to do it last year with Tsunoda.
Yeah. Okay, so this is McLaren probably getting ready to put Colton Herta in a Formula One, just in an FP1 more than anything, I would think. Would we think it would be in Circuit of the Americas? Well, that's where he won his IndyCar race, wasn't it? When he was how old was he? Like 16 or something ridiculous like that when he won. No, it can't have been that long ago.
They've got to do 2 FP1s, haven't they? So one in each car. Like someone's got to run once in Lando's car, and someone's got to run once in Daniel Ricciardo's car.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Circuit of the Americas would make sense.
I think that'll be his second go.
Colton Herta was 18 when he won his first IndyCar race at Circuit of the Americas.
Circuit of the Americas would make sense. Followed the next week by Pato O'Ward doing FP1 at Mexico.
Maybe.
It'd shift some merch.
I don't think they'll do the 2 drivers. I think Hurst will get 2 goes. I think you'll get an FP1 before, depending on how this test goes. If this test goes well, I think he'll get a FP1 before the summer break. And then over the summer break, I think there's going to be all sorts of contract negotiations with Daniel Ricciardo, where Daniel Ricciardo probably wants to get out of his contract, but wants to do it in a way that's favourable to him.
Yep.
Now the problem is, I think just about every Indy weekend clashes with an F1 weekend between now and Singapore.
Right. Maybe then. Maybe it will be after the summer break then. Maybe. But I've got a feeling that you're going to have him in a Formula One car before America, and then his second go when he's had some more running in the car in the US.
I think the only weekend there isn't a clash is Belgian Grand Prix weekend, and that is not the place for a rookie test.
Do you want some conjecture from the mind of Chris over here? I did just refer to myself in the third person.
Yes, he did.
I would think the only argument I can think of to back up Lee's suggestion there is that they would announce Colton Herta as a McLaren F1 driver at Circuit of the Americas
for next year.
Yes, that's the only thing I can think of. If they're genuinely looking at Colton Herta as a Formula One driver. For a Formula One seat, right now it's probably just a possibility. There's probably very little behind it.
I mean, he hasn't got the super license points.
Nobody, he can get them by doing the mileage that he's doing at the moment.
He would also need a top 4 finish in IndyCar this season, and at the moment he's 10th.
Aren't these points though? Aren't they with concession? Haven't we already been told that this is not a hard and fast rule, and that the super license point position can be negotiated if someone falls slightly short?
It's like an extenuating circumstances or something along those lines.
The rules can be rewritten on the fly, but.
It probably will be.
Yeah, it's just a question of where he finishes in Indy this year. I mean, he's 10th. Don't get me wrong. He's got, he's got a win.
That's what I mean. I don't think even if he doesn't manage to get himself in the top 4 in IndyCar, if McLaren want him in that car, he'll be in that car.
But I don't know.
I think it's a rule to keep people out that shouldn't be there. I think that's the thing. It's to stop people getting in that shouldn't be there, not to keep people out that are capable of being there.
I mean, all right, we're never going to see the likes of Riccardo Rossi or Taki Inui in F1 again, or UGE Day.
And that's a good thing.
Oh, God, yes.
So, no, do you know what? I'm going that. I reckon if Belgium doesn't clash with an Indy weekend, I think he'll take FP1 for Lando Norris at Belgium.
That'd be brave, being that Lando's half Belgian.
I was going to say the half Belgian Lando Norris.
Yeah, but the guy that can get on with that is going to not suffer as badly through having missing an FP1. And I know he's half Belgian, but it's not like the Belgian flags are being waved for Lando Norris.
No, he's got a following though in Belgium.
But I think they'll want Ricciardo and Herta back to back in FP1.
Yeah, that's a good point. They might want that
just before the summer break as well.
No, it could be Belgium's the end of the summer break.
The other thing could be Ricciardo might just not want to drive for McLaren next year. It might not be a case of being sacked. He might not be happy with being there. You know, he's a fucking competitive fucking animal. I mean, none of us, anyone that's competitive. I fucking hate like losing at stuff or doing really badly at things. I hate doing badly at things. God knows what he must feel like. He's a multiple race winner.
Don't forget, we're still talking about the possibility of Sebastian Vettel retiring at the end of the season. He walked out of the driver's briefing and got a hefty fine for it. It's been suspended.
I was going to say, got a hefty suspended fine.
For the rest of the year. But he walked out, apparently huffing and puffing and saying, "This is ridiculous. I've been talking about these things for 15 years," and then just walked out.
Well, it seems to be the new thing with race control and the stewards, suddenly, and the FIA in general, suddenly starting to impose all these rules that have actually been on the books all along. There was the case this weekend in Parc Fermé, where all the top three were given a suspended €10,000 fine because they had contact with their personal assistants or trainers before they'd been weighed. Now, that always happens, but this time they got called to the stewards for it.
It's new boss syndrome, isn't it?
Well, I think that the main problem that Vettel had was which boss have we got this week? Because it's down to the inconsistency. Because don't forget, we've got two race directors.
Well,
they're supposed to work together, though, aren't they?
They're supposed to, but in Vettel's opinion, they aren't doing.
I'd like to point out that after Abu Dhabi, I like in the Fallout podcasts of what happened there, I was strongly of the opinion, and still am, that they shouldn't have got rid of Messi. He'd had a rough run and he made a terrible decision in the last race. You can't go without that. But the thing is, just because it's like a politician, isn't it? You could fucking hate the politician that's running your country, and the minute that you get this big old push of like, we must get him out, or everybody forgets the fact that the next person might be just as bad or worse. And right now, I think a one-person race director like we had was the best situation we had. And I don't know about you guys, but if I learn more from doing things wrong than I do from getting things right. The fucking baptism of fire Messi had last year.
Yeah, but he got a lot of things wrong a lot of the time, and then that was just the icing on the cake.
He did get a lot of things wrong, but I still think they should have kept him on. Kept him on. Fuck up again, yeah, red. But it should have been a fresh season, right? Let's move forward with this, because now it's all up in the fucking air. You know, you've got Formula One wanting to drop the FIA altogether now, and nobody fucking knows what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, having a single race director and a consistently applied set of rules would make life a lot better.
It's not, I'm sorry, it's not easy because, I mean, realistically, race directors, especially people to the point of where you could do it for Formula One, are not easy to come by. That's why what was the Charlie Whiting, wasn't it, was a race director for years before him. And he was in that job a long time to build up the experience he had and the respect and rapport he had with the drivers as well. But it baffles me. It baffles me why we can't have a single race director, 3 race stewards, every race, same people. Like, keep them away from the media, completely away from the media. I'm glad we can't radio them anymore. That was fucking stupid. I actually think most of Messi's problems came from constantly being on the phone to fucking Christian Horner or Toto Wolff.
He was race director. He never stewarded any decisions, like giving penalties or anything like that.
No, but he's still on the phone when he's trying to do his job. And you're getting live fucking tele broadcasts with Toto Wolff shouting at the race director.
Yeah, we're repeating what we said last December, but that didn't help having them broadcast on TV.
No.
But should we rattle through this race?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
quickly because and
we do have an interview coming up as well with.
Well, should we do that now?
Do you want to do that now? An interview with. Can we say one of the most exciting young drivers around at the moment?
I think so.
Yeah.
A chap called Cameron Hawes. He took part in the first Electric Racing Academy race this weekend in what's effectively an electric Formula 4. I'm not going to spoil it. Listen to the interview, but the main spoiler is he only went and won it. So here's a chat with Cameron that we had a little bit earlier. Right, and in another of the occasional 3 Legs 4 Wheels series of up-and-coming drivers, we are joined this week by Cameron Hawes. Cameron, thank you so much for joining us, and you've had a particularly successful weekend just gone.
I have. Thank you for having me to start off with. It's been great to catch up with you guys for over a few months now. But yeah, it's been a good weekend. I think that's the least we can say.
So would you like to tell everyone basically, the story from, was it Thursday?
It was Thursday, yeah. So on Thursday evening, I was just about to go on a cycle, and I got this phone call from one of my main and very good sponsors, and also a good friend of mine, Frank Murray, who runs PAF Classics. They sell classic car parts pretty much all the way around the world and have really good relations in the UK and in France. So I've known him since I started racing, and he's always supported me. So it's been brilliant. But anyway, he called me and said, look, he'd already spoken to me about the ERA Championship, which is the brand new electric single-seater academy with obviously electric cars with Formula 4 chassis. So it's a big opportunity. They run with ETCR. It's something that if you have the opportunity, you don't say no, pretty much. So immediately he said, we're looking for a driver. Is it possible that you can come down? And I said, 100%, I will be there. We're leaving now. So we left straight away at 11 o'clock with my dad in the van. And it took us 9 hours to get down to Zolder. And
wow.
When we got down to Zolder, we arrived at around 8:30, and it was sort of, here are your passes, get in the circuit, start talking. So I started speaking to the whole of the ERA team, who were absolutely excellent from the first minute we got there. And yeah, it kind of just evolved from there. It was an amazing weekend. Obviously, the ERA Championship is still in heavy development, sort of to the point where the cars they had some issues during practice, and it was very what's the word? It was very complicated to sort of get all of the cars out on track without any issues. It wasn't complicated. It was impossible. You can't have a car that's just been built to go out on track and just say, yeah, it will work, because it doesn't. These cars are full of software. They use 4G for data. Everything gets sent up to the cloud. It's cutting edge technology for a junior series, which is just something that is unheard of. And it's new for everyone. It's new for the drivers. It's new for the mechanics. It's new for the engineers. It's new for the software company, for the chargers, for the batch. Everything that goes behind it is brand new. So we knew it was going to be a little bit of an issue going into Friday and into Saturday. So the first Friday practice session didn't run because there was just some issues on the cars that would have taken too long to fix. Just software issues, not any hardware. So yeah, it's just little things that you plug in and you fix on a computer. So we came out Saturday afternoon and we had a few issues with power. And then Friday afternoon we had a few issues with power, and then Saturday we had 2 more 40-minute practice sessions where obviously overnight everything got so much better. Every session that we did, we gained so much data and we gained so much possibility for the cars, and everyone learned some more about it. So it was very interesting to just see how the cars evolved from there. Going into obviously Saturday all day, it was very good. We got some really promising running on Saturday afternoon. On the free practice 4, which is where I started getting used to the car. And I started pushing the limits just a little bit, because I'd never driven at Zolder and I've never driven an electric car or a single seater. So as you can imagine, it was all new for me. Then going on to Sunday, we had 1 qualifying session, which was 30 minutes. And then a race that was 15 minutes plus 1 lap. So during Saturday evening, we decided that we were going to turn the power of the cars down to 80% instead of 100%, because the car batteries wouldn't... because we were running without regen, because that's a whole other story. Regen is basically when you come off the throttle, it sort of regenerates the power into the batteries. So it basically stops. It's like braking. It's very difficult to get used to. So we would have had to run it from free practice 1 and test days. And it was just, we turned the power down. So we had to still save battery during the race, but we didn't have to have issues with the cars. The cars were easy to handle, but we had new tires on Sunday morning in qualifying, so hence why a few of us spun. And we also had to manage the power, because warming the tires up, you have to put energy into the car. And once you put energy into the car, that's energy you're not going to have on your push lap. And you can't charge mid-session. So you had to kind of warm your tires up and your brakes up slowly, which is what the pole sitter did, Ellis Spiezza. He did 5 laps just running really, really slowly and then pushed for 1. He had more power than all of us, and he got pole by over a second. So that's how we had to do it, but there was never ever a qualifying session where we had to actually do that. So my strategy was go out, push really, really hard, which didn't work at all, because on new tires with instant power and instant torque, you will just rotate. You will end up the other way, and it just doesn't work. And then, so yeah, I qualified P2 on Saturday, which I was very happy with. And then the mind game started with all of the drivers, which is just racing. Racing is now just mind games and strategy, more so in electric racing. And yeah, we got into the race, and I started second. And I just remember having to manage the power all race. I just thought I need to have enough power at the end. And my plan originally was to sit behind Ellis or the leader, whoever it was, and just save power and then push at the end in case I needed it, just to be safe. And then I got a really good start and decided, no, I'm just going to control this race. So I sat at the front, and I was letting people past, because when letting people pass, they have to push to get past you, which meant they were using just that little bit more power. Mm-hmm. And it was mainly Ellis that was trying to get past me. And that's why on the back end of the last lap, Ellis actually ran out of power, ran out of battery. So it was interesting. It was very, very interesting to kind of manage that race, because it's completely different from racing with a combustion engine. Because combustion engine racing, you just go flat out for 25 minutes, and here you really have to manage your power.
And you ended up winning the race.
I did end up winning the race. I still don't know how I did it, and it was a very, very tight gap at the end. It was less than a tenth of a second. It was about half of a tenth of a second, actually. So yeah, it was very interesting, and it was very exciting, and I really enjoyed it. And I'd like to thank everybody that put me in that seat. Obviously Frank from PAF did the unspoken. He called me first, which is I still can't get my head around why. There's also the ERA.
I think getting on the top step of the podium, it kind of justifies the decision.
Yeah, I mean, that's what people were saying to me, but I still don't think I deserve that seat. I mean, there are so many good drivers out there who would have done as well as me, if not better, and I just did what I was told, and it worked. So it just shows how much help engineers and teams and mechanics behind you can really, really help. ERA team were absolutely fantastic. I had a mechanic assigned to me, so it was Lucas and Roberto. Roberto was a junior, or is a junior mechanic who is just excellent in every way. As soon as I wanted something, he was there, and as soon as there was just one little thing, it was, Roberto, can you look at this? And it was, yeah, sure, straight under the car, looking at it. I asked if they could check the floor after qualifying, and he lifted the car up within 5 minutes and checked, and he was, yeah, that's all good, and he was just an amazing. So the whole of the ERA team, Beth as well. Beth actually started this championship, and Beth was just brilliant in to give me that possibility to actually drive one of her cars was just outstanding, and I can't thank Beth, Dieter, just anybody enough. It was amazing.
Oh, that is great. Now, you say it's a world of difference from driving a normal combustion engine car. Could you go into a few more specifics of how it's different? Is it different levels of torque, different grip? Does it behave differently in the corners, for example?
Yeah, so
explain like we're 5. Oh, then again, we are, aren't
we? The cars have so much mechanical grip, so the downforce does help, but you can definitely feel the difference when you move the downforce. And also the rake. So rake is sort of level from the back to the front, and the difference. So yeah, the cars have so much mechanical grip that you can chuck them into corners, and you know they're going to stick. Obviously, the downforce has to help with that, and I felt I was on the limit because I just pushed from the get-go and found where that was going to slide, and then I just drove it like that the whole time. So yeah, it was very interesting to sort of try and find that limit. The braking is just phenomenal. Like, the car weighs 700 kilos, so the car stops extremely quickly. All of the cars are the same, so they all have to. There's data in every single car, so all of the cars they'll just run the same. There's no difference at all, and you can check if there's a difference with every single bit of data, when the maximum power, how much battery you had at the start, just everything. Everything is possible. Everything is open. So it was really good to see just how level everything is and how open the championship is to just giving out that data and giving out those cars power limits and things like that. Also, another thing which is really important is the energy management. Now, I keep saying this, but I can't stress how important energy management is. Alex Sims actually came down, Alexander Sims from Formula E.
Yeah.
And he explained how much energy management is important in Formula E. And we explained how more important it is in here because we don't have regen. And I can't even explain or begin to explain how much you have to save. I mean, 10% of extra power is 50% more battery heat or motor heat even. So when you're sort of pushing on a straight, we're actually at 80% throttle, because there's no point pushing at 20,000 RPM to then try and get that 5 kilometers an hour extra, but use probably a lap's worth of battery in probably a lap. So
that's why your man ran out of. Why that's why he ran out of battery. Ellis, did you say his name was? Yeah,
Ellis. Yeah, Ellis Bietza, who was actually their development driver, ran out of battery because of this. I think he was trying to push to get past me. It looked like he was trying to push to get past me. Sorry, all of the time, and yeah, it was interesting to see how all of the other cars were sort of working, and what their strategies were. Like Milan, who was just behind us, decided to sit behind us all race and gain power, and he easily had another lap of power at the end of the race. So just by not fighting, you can gain so much more power. And I was on the limit. I ran out of power through the final chicane. So yeah, it was really interesting to see how everybody's strategy works, and the cars is just completely different. You can't even compare it to a car with an engine or with an internal combustion engine.
And of course, that final chicane at Zolder does lead onto a bit of a straight, so you need a good exit from there. I'm going on my previous sim racing experience here. If I sound like I know what I'm talking about, it's all been done on the screen.
I mean, sim racing is one of the best ways to actually learn tracks now. I'd say it's free, but it's not.
No, it isn't.
But it is. I mean, you can get a sim racing rig which isn't free, but what I mean is, if you wanted to actually drive the track, you'd have to have car, tires, fuel, and pay for the track day. Sim racing is probably the price of the tires. It is so much cheaper, and you can learn the track. Now, it's not completely the same. Like in sim racing, you don't feel the negative G going over Villeneuve, the Villeneuve crest. However, it is. Sim racing is now the way forward. It is the future. It is like these cars. You need to sim race to learn the tracks, and that is how you're going to gain the time.
Yeah, it's the closest thing you can do to actually being there.
Yeah, exactly. There's no driver will ever get in a car now without actually learning the track on a sim, and if they do, I think that they won't be up front. If they are, I'd like to see them, because
you are the second person on this podcast to say that, and you're in damn good company, because the last person to say it was actually Johnny Herbert.
Well, there you go. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, Johnny Herbert was talking about young drivers, wasn't he, and how they all use games and then sim racing. How they stepped up through that. Is that how you stepped up into racing, or is that did you just sort of jump in a kart a few years ago and decide it's what you wanted to pursue?
So I come from a sort of background of cars, but not racing. So we never really did circuit racing. We never did karting. We never had the money to do karting, because karting is very, very expensive. Karting is more expensive than actually racing cars. So I did sim racing. I started about 5 years ago now on Forza. And then we sort of worked our way. I worked my way up through sort of iRacing, ACC, things like that. I bought a computer, and yeah, I sort of got more and more serious about it. And then once I'd learned that I could actually get into a race car from 16, I thought that's what I need to do. So we spoke to Frank, who helped us out massively with sort of getting the cars ready from PAF Classics, and we bought a Golf Mark II. And as soon as I got in that car, my first race, I got a podium. It was, as I said, sim racing is the future. That's how you learn cars and tracks. I learned how to drive a front wheel drive car from sim racing. I learned how to drive around my first track, which was Dijon, from sim racing. So everything I did was sort of through there. And as soon as you get into the car, you know how to race, because sim racing is, I'd argue, more difficult than actually racing, because you don't have that feel. I call it a seat of pants feel, but it's basically when you slide on sim racing, you feel it through the wheel. When you slide in a real car, you feel it through your butt. So it's adding more when you're actually racing, adding more feelings, adding more things in the car, and it just makes it so much easier.
Well, after our sim racing day on Saturday, which I want to thank the Sim Centre for again, Lee, Chris, there's hope for us all yet.
There's no hope for me. Let's be honest. I mean, The only one I was good at was where the one with the racing line was on. Let's be honest.
You still got the fastest time out of all of us around the Nordschleife.
Well, yes, I did.
It took me 10 minutes to get my knees past the steering column in the Formula One car. I got in fine. It was cramped.
There is photographic proof of you being in.
I'm not a small person, and I'm just under 6'2", and I crammed myself in a Formula 2 car, not thinking that when I had to try and get out, there might not be a possibility of this.
Yeah. But back to ERA. Is that looking to the championship? Is that looking to be like a feeder series to Formula E? What's the future for ERA and sort of the more electric junior formulas? Has that been spoken about this weekend, or is it just sort of what this is its own single thing at the moment?
So, from what I can understand, ERA is looking to bridge the gap which is needed from sort of electric karting to Formula E, because you can't go from electric kart to a Formula E car. It is impossible. So they're looking to fill that sort of gap with a junior series. It's called Electric Racing Academy. So it really is, people can turn up and drive electric cars internationally around the whole world. It's a good idea, and it's a very good concept, and they're doing it right, which is not really that often from races nowadays. You don't really get fixed championships where people can't really touch setup, and they always have an engineer and a mechanic with them at all times. So I know that they're trying to achieve that sort of bridged gap from electric karting to Formula E.
I mean, obviously, with the increases in sustainable fuel technology, then there's always going to be a place for internal combustion engine based racing. But if motorsport doesn't embrace the new technologies like electric cars, then it becomes its own dinosaur, and there's no reason why. We'll call it traditional racing and electric racing can't coexist side by side.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, sorry, I couldn't agree more. But the electric racing is obviously just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's never ever going to get smaller. And I think people should. I'm inviting you to watch electric racing if you never have, or if you say I don't want to watch electric racing because electric cars are rubbish. They're not. It is new technology. And yes, the racing is very, very close. And yes, the cars have problems. But once we get through those issues, and once every electric racing series gets through those issues, I think it will be racing like we've never seen before.
Well, it was actually down to the first Formula E race in the first season that Three Legs Four Wheels started.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, we watched that race and decided we were going to start a racing blog.
Wow.
Which turned into a podcast. So, yeah. So what's next for you then, Cameron? Where are you aiming? What's your next step, and what's your ambition? Where does the story top out for Cameron Hawes?
Well, it's not what you know, it's who you know, and we're running out of money to race. Racing is expensive. It is very expensive now in this day and age. And it's a struggle. It's a real struggle to kind of do what you want to do now. I've always wanted to race four wheels. That has always been my thing. So hopefully, if all goes well, I can get back into the ERA car. That would be the ideal opportunity. And I really just want to get back in the car and help them develop this new series, because I think the ideas behind it are amazing. I think the ideas that they have and the potential that this series has is just astonishing. Like things that were said behind the scenes, I can't really mention, but things that were said about the cars, having more information on the dashboards, and all of the data by 4G. I mean, if you'd have said that 3 years ago, that would have been, you'd just be laughed at. So I think this series, the ERA series, has so much potential, and I want to stick with them. However, the ERA series is an arrive and drive concept, and it doesn't run for free. You do need money to race in the ERA series, as it is. You need money to race in any series now. So there always needs to be funding behind it, and the way you get that funding nowadays is just either you get very, very lucky, or you don't really, or you have the money behind you. So I'm going to finish this season in my Golf Mark II that I race in France. I'm going to carry on with my golf, and yeah, we'll see what happens in the coming months. But
that's very level-headed of you, especially for a young man who literally just stepped inside the first single-seater race you've ever done and went and won it, beating that very development driver. So yeah, don't play yourself down. That's something seriously impressive. And if you get a chance to use that as a springboard into further successes, then absolutely take every opportunity you can. He says, sat in his chair in a house in Douglas.
but on a serious point, if anybody wants to get in touch with Cameron to discuss sponsorship, get in touch through us, and we will hook you up, because you never know who's listening to this, and you're saying it's you've either got the money backing you or not. Let's see if basically we can crowdsource it.
Yeah, that is really kind of you guys, and thank you to all of you. I've had Frank from PAF from the start, and there is no longer a way that I can thank him enough for everything that he's done. However, the more people that you can sort of bring into motorsport and bring into the future, because this is the future, this is what motorsport is going to be, in my opinion. And the more people I can sort of bring into this world and introduce to electric racing, I think the better it is going to be for everybody. And yes, maybe during this weekend, I was the quickest and I adapted the best to the car, or you can say what you want, but the drivers in that series are also very, very quick. The drivers that were there were very, very good, and they were very, very good at what they were doing. And I can't say anything else about them. They did the exact same thing as me. They gave feedback that was better than mine, and I learned from them. However, I got given a strategy by the amazing ERA engineers and the team, and everyone got given the same strategy, and I just executed that the way that I thought was best, and that's the only reason that I won that race. I think if I had to do it again, I'd do it completely differently, and yeah, all I did was listen. All I did was listen to all of the mechanics and all of the engineers.
Was part of it, so
yeah. The quickest driver there was actually the guy that set the fastest lap was actually down in P6 or P7. So it just shows that either you can push during the race and set the fastest lap, or you can save energy. I decided to go on the save energy side and just have a few battles, and I was there to have fun. I got invited to join this amazing series that I thought was just going to be me getting into the car and just driving. I never ever thought that I would now be sat with my phone buzzing, with people mentioning me on Instagram, and basically rewriting history for the first race in ERA. To have a young driver actually win it is something that's really big for me personally, but also really big for them. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without them. So yeah, it wasn't just me that made that race. It was actually everybody else around me and everybody else that was there. And also, I'd like to thank Ellis, because if it wasn't for Ellis wouldn't have, there would be no development behind this. And Ellis he's an amazing driver. He gives amazing feedback. He gives amazing, just everything he does is sort of top notch. And he can give feedback corner by corner, which is something I noticed during this weekend. So yeah, there's no words for how I felt in that car because I glued to it quite well, I feel. But it wasn't just me; it was the team. I was just there to have fun, and I did.
But whatever happens when
Excellent.
the history of the championship is written, when it's race 1, season 1, it's your name that was at the top.
Yes.
Also, I have just had a quick look at the results, and the fastest lap, the guy who got it was in 5th place, the incredibly named Michelangelo Amendola.
Yes. It was. He's also very, very good. He's got some very good ideas.
It's a strong racing driver's name as well.
I mean, Michelangelo was a painter, I thought, but yeah, I thought he created the Christine Chapel. But
I thought it was the turtle.
I was going to say that was that before the freelance crime fighting.
I'm gonna move off this conversation before I get banned.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Cameron. It's been great, and we will look out for your career with great interest. We'll also look out for the ERA Championship. Now, I believe there is another round coming up in a couple of weeks, and we're going to keep everything crossed that you can actually make that one. So, like I say, any offers of sponsorship, get in touch, and we will put you in touch with Cameron.
Thank you.
And I think did you say they stream all the races live on Twitch, and then you can watch them on YouTube about a day or two later?
So yeah, so they may not be on Twitch, but they were certainly on Facebook for this weekend. This weekend gone. So yeah, in 2 weeks we're going to Vallelunga in Italy. I say we. They're going to Vallelunga. Hopefully I can join them. I'd like to. But all of the races will be streamed live somewhere. It's all on their Twitter and their Instagram channel. So it's just ERA Championship. And then yeah, about a day later, full qualifying goes up before the race, and then the race goes up about a day later, and all highlights will be on Eurosport as well.
Oh, excellent. Well, I think I've seen the video of this weekend's race, so I will share a link to that on the website and on our socials.
That's on YouTube.
So that people will be able to see. And talking of socials, what are you on the socials?
So I'm on Instagram. I mainly use Instagram, which is just Cameron Horse 88. So you should be able to find me just by putting that in on your search bar. I'm also on Twitter, which is Cameron HWS 88. But I mainly use Instagram for all of my racing escapades. Yeah.
I'll put a link to those in the on the website as well, and everyone will get to follow your career with great interest.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you guys for having me. It's been good.
No, it's the pleasure is all ours, Cameron. We'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.
Yeah, thank you.
That was a really good weekend for Cameron, and I'm glad he came on the pod to share that with us.
Yeah.
If you didn't leave my burp in, you don't even understand your way around a joke.
Like I said, that's for the Christmas tape.
We don't do Christmas tapes, do we?
Tapes? Who does tapes?
All right, the Christmas MP3. I'm old.
You can find this on our mini disc.
Yeah, I'm old. I'll send it out on a wax cylinder.
With a papaya in.
Right, where were we? Austria.
The Austrian Grand Prix.
The Austrian Grand Prix. One thing that we did notice about this weekend, and it happened a lot in F2 as well, were track limits were being bloody rigidly enforced.
Yeah, so we've got the teams from the back to the front as we traditionally do on this podcast, but the positions, it's so difficult to try and keep a hold of who actually finished where, because of the penalties.
Effectively. And you want to try it in F2. The guy that crossed the line fourth ended up winning 4 hours after the race was over.
Oh my God. And Roberto Meri finished third, but actually fifth.
No, crossed the line second, then fifth, then third.
Right, okay.
They had Oprah as a guest steward. You get 5 seconds, you get 5 seconds, everyone gets 5 seconds, apart from Daruvula, who got 20. Anyway, talking of young Red Bull drivers, AlphaTauri.
Yes, they are first team. Remember last week we were saying they're slipping backwards. Well, technically speaking, they both finished the race, but they're right at the back of the list.
Little bit participation awardy.
Yes, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, Gasly in 15th, Tsunoda in 16th.
The hell was that?
That was Sean opening the kitchen door.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. At their home track, I mean, they make a big thing about, we're at the Red Bull Ring. Let's do some wacky stuff. Maybe they should have concentrated on making the car a bit quicker and getting round faster.
Well, I think Red Bull did some crazy stuff, didn't they? I didn't see AlphaTauri doing anything, but yeah, I don't know. It's poor qualifying, poor race.
Yeah, I mean, it's one.
Gasly was one of the first drivers, wasn't he, to get a penalty?
Yes, he was. I mean, if we have a look because don't forget, there's kind of two races to cover because we've got the sprint.
I can't remember the sprint. That was Saturday.
Yep. Tsunoda came 17th and Gasly came 15th. So it just wasn't there at all this weekend. Qualifying for the sprint or the qualifier Q3 or God knows. Don't know what you call it. I mean, Gasly slipped down from 10th.
Yeah, as I say, I think their car's just going backwards.
I think they said something about they feel out of step with updates, like from the cars that are around them. You know, they're in like a reactionary phase as far as trying to get the car to work.
Yeah, it definitely didn't pay off this weekend. I think that's all you can really say about it.
Strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
At least, all right. I'm going to keep saying this so we remember it for the off season. Like we stop thinking all of a sudden that they're going to do the business for us. They keep honey trapping us every year with potential speed,
and then just at the last minute, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, it must be pretty grim now as well for Pierre Gasly. You know, he's gone from like the highs he was on last year when he was doing so well to, you know, you'd have thought he must have been on the shopping list for somebody, and now he's re-signed for AlphaTauri, and he's going to be stuck in the same sort of middling part of the grid next year. If not, drop them further down if they can't recover from this quickly.
Yeah, well, at least, I mean, there are teams behind them that seem to be struggling more, Aston Martin being one. Sunday's result, Vettel in 17th and Stroll in 13th. Vettel retired from the sprint after his spin.
Yeah, but then also finished last in the race because of he got a penalty too, if I remember correctly.
I think he spun as well in the race,
and there was a spin. He left a bit of his front wing, but yeah, he was the last one over the line in 17th, or last one classified in 17th.
Biggest letdown of the year for me, Aston Martin.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, they're just not delivering.
No,
and another team that started okay and are just sliding back down the grid.
It's almost exactly the same thing that happened to Williams, which is really weird because it's almost exactly the same thing that happened to Williams when the Strolls got involved.
Well, I was watching something today that actually it said that the start of Williams' decline was all caused by Damon Hill leaving, because that's what made Adrian Newey leave. And then he goes to other teams and builds better cars.
I'm gonna come to bat for Damon there. In that case, the start of the decline for Williams was Williams not willing to pay Damon Hill where he deserves as a champion. Because that's why he left, wasn't it? Yeah, it was a money issue why he left.
Well, they didn't re-sign him, did they? The date came and went.
Yeah, they just offered the seat to Prancing because they didn't think that Hill would ever win him a world championship.
Hill said it was because he wanted too much money. He was honest about it. He said I wanted more money than Frank was willing to give me.
I think this is going to be one of these 6 or 1.5 a dozen of the other, and we'll never know the full reasons behind it.
Yeah, don't forget Williams had a good spell with Juan Pablo Montoya, 2004, 2005-ish, about earlier than that. But yeah, a good spell with Juan Pablo Montoya. Actually gave Schumacher a run for his money when Schumacher was winning all those championships.
True. But going back to slagging off the Strolls, anyone see the photo that Aston Martin tweeted from on the grid? I think it was possibly Thursday, the media day. They had the car, they had Daddy Stroll and the entire team behind, and it just looks like the most miserable picture ever.
Well, I'd be miserable if I worked for Aston Martin at the moment because it's not going well, is it?
It really isn't.
No.
Has Seb checked out? Do we think?
What, phoning it in till the end of the season, a bit like Felipe Massa?
Yeah. Has he just... I
don't think that's his style. But
I'm driving a shed.
Let's not forget he's had a. I mean, that car isn't where he's wanted to be, but he's had a couple of good drives this year. Like comparative to Stroll and stuff. He's not been spinny Seb. He's been pretty happy when he's been in interviews. He's not been sad.
He appears to have taken on role of sort of mentor of Mick Schumacher. Yeah. To the point where at Silverstone he was watching the race on the big screens, which we saw a bit of that this weekend as well, didn't we? With was it George Russell watching Lewis Hamilton?
Yeah,
in the sprint. Yeah,
but
it surprises me when I first heard it. I think it was Jarno Trulli first said that he was watching his teammate on the big screen. That would have been Alonso, I think, wouldn't it?
But again, another non-weekend for Aston Martin. I think I'm still standing by. It's only a matter of time before we get the announcement about Audi.
I thought we were going to get the Porsche announcement with Red Bull this weekend as well, but that never happened. He was there, wasn't he? Wolfgang Porsche. He was at the circuit.
Oh, was he actually there? I didn't see him, but I didn't get to see a lot of it unless I was in a pub this weekend. The race was actually the first session I watched at home. Matt Steele, bad influence. Williams, Albon in 12th, and Latifi in the garage.
It's refreshing that Williams aren't the first team we're talking about.
What
happens to Latifi?
Yeah.
He still hasn't got the new car though.
Was he not?
I don't think Albon had much of it this weekend either.
No, he had a new he was running all the new upgrades on the car again. And Latifi doesn't get them until France.
Right. It just says retirement, so I think they just pulled the car in.
I remember Latifi retiring.
I think it might have been picked up some damage and it wasn't worth carrying on. Same reasons as Perez.
Oh yeah.
But there was nothing. Well, he rarely troubles the scorers anyway. I'm being generous.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt, but that new car looks handy for Williams. It feels like it's dragging them towards the midfield. So I think that's probably gonna be the test for Latifi, isn't it? If he gets a new car and Albon is like scratching around, getting himself out of Q3 and into Q2 and scratching in the races, trying to nick a point or two off somebody, and Latifi is still second to last, then it clearly is time that guy disappeared.
Then the writing is definitely on the wall. I mean, Albon was fairly close to getting into Q2 this week. He was less than a tenth off Mick Schumacher's pace. Schumacher was 10th with a 106.1 and 106.15, and Albon was 12th with a 106.23. So,
Yeah, and everybody's thinking how great Schumacher did this weekend, so that's good.
Yeah. Albon is getting a lot more out of that car than Latifi does. And I think it's showing Latifi up for the driver that I'd say this every bloody week. Get rid of him. You don't need the money now, apparently. Joss, if you're listening, we know a good driver. Anybody?
Yes, we do. We
Yeah.
know some.
Yes. But yeah, I really thought that Williams were going to get in the points, and I was a little bit gutted for Albon when he lost out on 10th place. Alfa Romeo, Bottas in 11th and Zhou Guanyu in 14th.
Bottas, did he get a penalty in the sprint?
You're asking all these questions, and I've not got any of the information in front of me. I've not actually prepared for anything tonight. It's been,
but they were.
It's been a torrid couple of days. Get well soon, Dad. Did Bottas get a penalty in the sprint? I don't know. He finished 10th in it, so he was in a place to do better.
Yeah, possibly. But yeah, 11th for Bottas, just outside the points. Guan Yu Zhou, 14th, given that he nearly died a week earlier, I think.
Oh, actually, yes. Bottas started from the pit lane, didn't he? Because they had to, they changed the entire powertrain.
Of course.
Yes.
There you go. I knew something had happened with Bottas, I just couldn't remember what.
Yeah, I'd like to
Bottas
apologise tonight. My brain is just not working.
No, nobody's brain is working. It's Monday. It's fine. But yeah, quiet race, but obviously Bottas did the job and got up to 11th, which is good considering he started from the pit lane. You must have one stop to that, I would have thought then. Hards straight onto mediums.
Let me just check the tyre history. Now I've got the details open. He did 6 laps on mediums, and 0 laps on hards, and then
that doesn't sound right.
No, Autosport. What are you doing? Yeah, 6 laps on mediums, 0 laps on hards, and then 31 laps on hards.
That doesn't add up to the race distance, but thank you, Autosport.
Yeah, I think I'll check F1 for that. But I think he may have more than one stopped, which I'll tell you in a second. Just filling for time while I'm loading a page up. Damn slow internet. Let's have a look at the live timing on F1. That should give us tyre history. Here we go. Right, Bottas. Okay, so there seems to have been some kind of problem with tyre data.
Because he says he did 0 laps on there as well.
Yes. Everybody's second tyres, apart from Max Verstappen, is showing...
Okay.
They all, after the first stop, not how many laps they did.
Okay, I won't ask anything else about tyres for the rest of the podcast.
You can ask about Max's tyres because they've got the full list of those, but they haven't got them for anyone else.
Oh, dear. Okay.
Oh, wow. So, yes, Bottas started from the pit lane, did well to actually pull it up to 11th, now when you think about it.
Yeah.
That way. Didn't quite have the pace to get by Alonso at the end. Finished 1.5 seconds adrift of Alonso in 11th place. Moving on next. McLaren. Now, we spent a lot of time slagging off Danny Rick, but he's got points at least.
Yeah, I don't know if it was slagging off Danny Rick. I don't want everybody to think that it was suddenly anti-Daniel Ricciardo.
Well,
but
not slagging off, but stating a few home truths.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Danny got his 3rd points finish of the season.
Which is a positive.
Yeah.
But that's... I didn't realise he'd only had 3 points finishes. That's crazy.
Yeah. And Lando has only had 3 non-points finishes.
Out of 11 races, is that?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, yes.
How many DNFs has Ricciardo had?
1.
Jesus. It's not what you want, is it? It's not the It's not the record.
Yeah. They both had 1 DNF. Not in the same race.
No, but given that we said before about McLaren sort of also suffering a little bit like Aston Martin and AlphaTauri, sort of sliding backwards a little bit. Lee, you said that they stopped the development on the car already.
Yeah,
double points finish halfway through the season is okay. I mean, Lando did he overtake 3 cars in the space of 2 corners?
Yeah.
So, he's still got that. He's still got the bit between his teeth. He's still got that fight, which I think is lacking in drivers and I don't, again, not being down on them here, but Sebastian Vettel, Daniel Ricciardo. They don't have that youthful, gritting of the teeth and just, able to find a bit more when the going gets tough.
I mean, Lando, it was a disappointing one more than anything because the last 2 Austrian Grand Prix, he's finished 3rd.
Yeah, well, they did say to him that you're looking for another.
And the last 2 Styrian Grand Prix, he finished 5th.
So consistency.
Yeah,
but they did say to him on the grid, they said, are you looking for another podium? And he laughed and said, that would be nice, but no, let's see if we can push up into the points. Because I think they started next to each other, didn't they? 14th, 15th?
Yeah.
And for McLaren to finish 7th and 9th, they moved forward in the race. That's positive. But looking at where they are with the teams that are ahead of them, they're probably not going to be happy with that.
Started 11th and 12th, by the way. Oh, finished 11th. Yeah, started the race 11th and 12th.
Yeah.
So yeah, not the best of sprints, but made it up. And to be honest, I think that's roughly where McLaren should be.
I think this was going to be a tough track for them anyway, wasn't it? I think that they're going to be a circuit-dependent car. They've got better races ahead of them. At least up to the mid-season break, I think.
Yeah, possibly, but it's the next 2 teams that are ahead of them in Austria, at least. But I think they'll be like, well, we need to be ahead of both of those teams, or at least, in between them.
I think maybe what makes them look even worse as well is the fact that Alpine have really come on. That car has really come on.
Sorry, I'm quoting Andrew Benson here. I've just seen this. McLaren are actually looking at options in case Ricciardo decides that he doesn't want to continue in F1.
Yeah.
Lee, you might be right.
Yeah, that's what I meant before. He's not going to be happy, is he, with where he is?
Albon and Vettel are already being talked about as well.
For
McLaren.
And Piastri as well.
I think they'll promote from within if they can. But I mean, saying that, there's nothing saying that they might test IndyCar drivers, and neither of them might be quick enough for what they want. IndyCar drivers don't have what you call a huge level of success going from IndyCar to Formula One, do they? There's been standouts.
There's been standouts, but the majority, it doesn't seem to work. For every Mario Andretti, there's half a dozen Sebastian Bourdais.
Yes, yeah.
And you've, half a dozen Sebastian Bourdais is putting it kindly. But yeah, you've got obviously the notable one to be Montoya, Jacques Villeneuve, and that's it.
And Mario Andretti.
Yeah, that's before I started watching.
But yeah, it doesn't seem to work the other way around.
Phil Hill, I think, 1961 world champion. I think he did the equivalent to IndyCar before he came to Formula One.
Let's have a look. No, he did sports cars.
Sports cars. I've got his book somewhere, so clearly I need to reread that.
Yeah, I mean, this is going back to the time when the Indy 500 was part of the World Championship, and there was a little bit of crossover, and the cars were more similar. Not identical, but
no, because obviously Graham Hill, Jim Clark, of Formula One drivers who won the Indy 500, and probably lots of others that I can't call to mind right now.
But yeah, the Indy to F1 route works less than it doesn't. Did I get that right? I'm dead good at England.
Works less than it doesn't. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It's a strange way to say
it. All the time.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Now then, kind of NASCAR to F1, in a way. Haas.
Great result for both drivers.
Nosebleed territory. Second consecutive double points finish for the team.
Best ever finish for Mick Schumacher.
Yeah. Only a second points finish, but sixth.
The team go really well in Austria, generally speaking, anyway. They had their best finish there with Grosjean and Magnussen some years ago. So I don't know if it's how they, maybe the team know how to set that car up for that circuit, or it's the altitude, or what it is. But that's, given where Haas have been in the last couple of years, that's fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, now up to seventh in the standings. I think sixth is their best finish in a season, isn't it?
No, fourth.
Was it
they
fourth?
got fourth.
Oh, God, was it fourth?
Oh, sorry. No, sorry. You mean over a constructor's season?
Over a constructor's season.
Yes, sorry.
Sorry, fifth.
Yeah,
Fifth in 2018.
Okay, fifth. That's still very good.
With Grosjean and K-Mag, obviously. But, yeah, they seem to have pulled it round. It looks like over the last two races, all right, these are on fairly rapid tracks. They've they've really turned it round after Schumacher having a few disappointing races, and K-Mag had a good start and then kind of went off the boil a little bit with retirements in Miami, Monaco, Azerbaijan, and a pair of 17ths.
Yeah.
In Canada and Spain. But France is going to be interesting for him because obviously that's a test track. And like you said at the French Grand Prix in 2019, Chris, the cars finished where they were meant to finish and nobody could do anything else about it.
Yeah, that was... because it's a test track, you end up... I mean, we were a bit lucky last year. We had a race between Hamilton and Verstappen for the lead that Verstappen managed to come out on top. But because it's a test track, you end up finding that separation between the teams. So the French Grand Prix is going to be, as you say, going to be interesting because that's where we'll find out where the teams really do sit at the moment. Last time we had this was Spain, Barcelona.
And I think we've had more upgrades come through then, so it'll be a really good test of what's worked and what hasn't.
Just don't be surprised if you get a 2x2x2x2x2 grid, France.
Which is probably why they're not having the sprint race there.
Yeah, maybe.
But Mick in the last two races. Then again, we're over the halfway point of the season now, and for the last few years, this is where. Or certainly in other formulas, this is where Mick's shone.
Yeah.
Did it in F3, did it in F2, because he was nowhere halfway through the F2 season when he became champion.
Well, I'm not saying he's going to become champion this year.
But he's started, he's now got to the point where he's actually started to score points.
Starting to show his potential, should we say.
Yeah. And he's racy.
He was fighting Hamilton in the sprint race.
And there was some very clever defensive moves that he pulled off.
Yeah, very much so.
You'd have expected, Hamilton's on the back of Schumacher, right, 2 corners. No, it took, 3 laps they were battling for?
A bit more than that, I think. But yeah, it was a good display from Mick Schumacher. Not saying he's complete, he's far from it, but I mean, this was his best weekend, and not just in terms of results, but in terms of racing, I feel, and attitude as well.
Yeah, he seems a lot more switched on.
Yeah,
I think that's the best way to do it. And K-Mag he's looking like the solid K-Mag that we expected and got disappointed when we didn't get.
The solid K-Mag? What are you talking about?
Well, we expected K-Mag to be a sort of fairly solid driver.
He's doing well
earlier on in his career. We expected that.
Oh, see, from earlier on in his career. Yeah. He's doing really well this season as well, given that he was, called up last minute. He's having barring those few races where things didn't go well in the middle, he's having a pretty good season. All right, he's not going to be happy that he finished 2 places behind his teammate, but it's still a really respectable result for Haas, and they qualified well as well. Don't forget that.
Yeah, I mean, 7th and 9th in the sprint, and it was looking at one point like it could have been 7th and 8th. Schumacher did want the team to pull Magnussen over so he could get ahead of him, because I think it was because he couldn't defend too long against Hamilton, and he wanted that point.
Yeah, he said he was faster than Magnussen, but he did fall out of Magnussen's DRS, which stopped him from being able to defend. So I don't know. We'll never know. We don't have the data.
And of course, the other first for Mick Schumacher, voted driver of the day.
Yes, no, rightfully so. It was a good performance.
And I think the runner-up in that is coming next, because Alpine next, Ocon in 5th, and Alonso from back of the grid to 10th.
Yeah, a classic Alonso.
Yeah,
and it should have been higher as well if he didn't have to do his 2 trips through the pit lane at the end.
Yep.
Yeah, because there was the pit stop that they weren't sure whether the wheel had gone on properly or not.
It was loose apparently, because they did look into it, but on the telemetry the FIA could see that he left the. I think it was either T1 or T3. I can't remember which one it was. I imagine it's going to be T3 because you kind of cut T1, don't you, through the pit lane?
Yeah.
And it came loose. The wheel came loose at T3, so it was put down to the fact that it only happened at T3. It's been put down to a failure and not a team letting the car go in an unsafe condition. That's why he wasn't penalised for it.
Ah, right. I didn't actually see the full report of that. I mean, with him making that stop under the virtual safety car, then that it was kind of good damage control.
Yeah, I just think it's such a shame. I think we could have seen something pretty special from Alonso this weekend. He looked quick on the way up to qualifying. Then he was qualified out of position because he damaged his car. Then they couldn't get him going in the sprint race. It's just I can't. You just wonder to yourself, the Alpine's not a bad car now.
Yeah, well, just look at what Ocon did.
Yeah, when's he going to get a bit of luck to go along with it? It's just crazy.
Well, I mean, it's usually Ocon that suffers from bad luck. Or bad teammates. And
Alonso's been suffering from bad luck before he was born.
Maybe it's Alonso's turn.
No. Alonso's been suffering with bad luck since he left fucking Renault the first time.
I don't know, when he was there the second time, he looked into a win in Singapore.
That's fair, yeah.
Because he knew nothing about any shenanigans whatsoever.
Absolutely nothing at all.
Honest governor.
But it's I do think it's really cool that when Alonso was coming in, he informed the team he was coming in a really nondescript way, because he already realised they might have put the wheel on wrong and he didn't want to get a penalty for it.
He's good at playing the game.
Yeah.
And I think, that... Well, that's probably why he's been around so long. Also, in good week for Alpine.
He might be the greatest driver of all time.
Also, in a good week for Alpine, they won the 6 Hours of Monza in WEC.
Oh, did they?
Yes.
Very good.
Because Glickenhaus exploded. There's a bundle of words. Right. Next up, Mercedes. Lewis in 3rd, George in 4th.
I think George Russell was potential for, despite the fact he got a penalty, for driver of the day for that recovery.
I thought that he must have had. I haven't checked the telemetry or anything like that, or that cool map thing they do of the cars. He must have had better pace than Lewis pretty much through all that race after his pit stop. to, because did he come out dead last? He must have been pretty close to dead last.
He was ahead of Perez. Was the only car he was ahead of,
right?
Who he'd already hit.
Yeah.
Well, I say he'd already hit. I don't. It's such a weird corner that, because I mean,
I had that down as a racing incident, but then you look at a replay from another angle and Perez was slightly ahead, but Perez had quite a lot of track on his left.
No, but the problem is, and this is,
but George had quite a lot of track on his right.
But it's the way they're going. He didn't know he was on the apex. He was on the apex of the corner. If you look back at it, this is the issue we've got with these rules now. The issues are putting all the onus on the driver on the inside to back out if there's going to be contact. So basically, what can happen is what Perez did. Perez can sail one around the outside. At that point, when Perez was in front of George Russell, there was nothing George Russell could have done. Anyone knows if you brake in the middle of a corner, you're going to run wide. If you do it in a road car, you're going to do it. That's why you don't brake going around corners. There was nothing Russell could have done from there. And this whole militant rule. It's almost in the same way as if you hit the back of somebody, you're to blame no matter what happened in front of you. I don't think it's got any place in motor racing because it lends itself to these murky collisions. And you get something like what Sainz did, where Sainz runs off the road, regains position off track, and it's fine because it was the first corner. But another corner down the road, something scrappy happens there, and we get penalties for it. It seems fucking weird.
Yeah, I'm not sure Hamilton should have got a penalty when with the collision with Albon a couple of years ago. I'm not sure that there were any of the collisions that we saw were penalty worthy. It's not. I think to get a penalty, you have to show that you either didn't leave enough room, and let's be honest, both drivers left enough room. They just went for the same bit of track and ended up colliding a little bit.
The problem is, sorry, just quickly before you say what you're going to say here, because I think it might be valuable. Perez lied in the media briefing afterwards to justify it, because Perez said, I was on the edge of the track. There was nowhere I could go. When you look back at it, George Russell was on the apex and Perez had two car widths of track next to him. So I don't get it. I really don't.
Yeah, well,
I don't understand it.
Team managers will always back up their drivers, won't they? Drivers will always say what they have to.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Back up their own arguments.
Well, what I mean is, if there's any evidence that George probably shouldn't have had a penalty for that, it's the fact that even if Perez, it might not have been Perez's choice to say it, even if he's just been instructed to say it, the fact that Perez had to lie to justify it shows maybe it was more of a grey area than a slam dunk penalty.
Possibly. You've got to take everything that every Red Bull driver says with a pinch of salt, or possibly more, just because of what they're being told to say by the powers that be at that team.
I think it's all teams, isn't it? It's not just Red Bull.
I think Red Bull are the worst at it, or the best at it. No, I think I'd have had that as racing incident.
I think it should have been racing incident.
But I mean, the penalties were I'm going to use this one again. David Beckham like this weekend. They were coming thick and fast.
Is David Beckham thick and fast?
Oh, he's a national treasure, I think you'll find.
What, you want to bury him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great film.
He also hangs around with a skeleton.
But yeah, there was all the penalties, all the warnings. I mean, another football analogy is referees that get the yellow card out early like to sort of impose their dominance on the game, and they won't stand for any rule infringements if you get a booking within the first 5 minutes. And I think it just set the tone for the rest of the race. where they were coming down hard on everyone. However, with the track limits, I'm fully in favour of there's the white line, that is the edge of the track.
Yes. Yeah, I can't argue with that. Drivers have been told about this for years.
Yeah. If they're going to make running wide optional in Austria, make it compulsory in Monaco, and that'll stop them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so if you're gonna take advantage of all the space that's there, keep to the rules. The rule has been there for, as I say, this isn't a new rule. It's been there for so many years, and we've always seen track limits warnings, but then hardly anything more ever happens from that. And then they were told this weekend, if you go over the track limits, we are going to start dishing out penalties, and they did.
Yeah. Case in point being, as we're doing Red Bull next, Perez in qualifying. Not only did he lose his fastest lap in Q2, he also got all his Q3 times deleted, so had to start the sprint in 13th.
Yes. But that should have been sorted at the time. Did he leave the track?
Yes, he did.
He's not in Q3.
Yeah, and the only reason that they did it that way was they were debating it for too long. So the drivers,
it was obvious, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we were watching it, me and Matt were watching it in the pub on Friday afternoon. It was like, he went off there, they're going to scrub this lap, and I was amazed when they didn't. And then when it only came out after Q3 had finished. But apparently it took them that long to decide that the drivers who would have been affected by this were all out of the car and had all been weighed. So they couldn't get back in.
Mm. Makes you wonder, doesn't it, whether we should have a slightly longer period between Q1 and Q2. Not huge, just an extra 2 minutes, where all drivers have to go back into the garage and are told to leave the cars when they've been eliminated. So it's just in case you have these things where you can quickly fucking work it out. If there's anything that needs to be done, you can sort it out really smart, and then get qualifying underway. Because again, Gasly suffered, doesn't he? It's a shame for people where they're losing out because other people aren't being penalised on time.
Yeah, because I mean, Gasly ended up 10th on the grid for the sprint, but could he have?
It's fucking TV. Make it 5 minutes. Fill it with an ad break.
Yeah, actually, could Gasly have got higher than 10th on the grid? Well, yes, he could because of Hamilton's crash.
Yeah, and George's crash. George.
I
know he got a lap in, but I'm saying that there could be anything could happen if neither of them had a lap in. He finds himself ahead of two Mercedes immediately.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So it was unfair on him.
Yeah, it just makes sense to not do it in quite as much of a rush. I mean, you're only talking about adding maybe 10 minutes to the whole proceedings of the whole qualifying session.
You don't even need that. It was obvious that Perez left the track, and from the camera angle, all four wheels were well over the white line on his fastest lap.
Yeah,
and we're told, the stewards have got sensors and they've got different cameras that we don't see on TV. Like, well, do they fucking work or not? And if they don't work, don't fucking use them. And if they do work, then give them the penalty.
Yeah, I mean, it was blatantly obvious, and we were watching the shot from the bloody helicopter.
Yeah, was it the helicopter? Or was it But yeah, but the shot that I saw from the car from behind, it was definitely all four wheels off.
Mm.
Nothing against Checo. I mean, you got to push the limits. Of course you do. But I mean, if they're going to be that strict on the penalties during the race, they should have been the same in qualifying and given another driver a chance to do more in Q3.
Yeah, just want to go back to Mercedes. Actually, one thing that I forgot to talk about: the Russell and Hamilton crashes in qualifying. That was all down to the amount of rear downforce they weren't running. They were really on the edge for that.
Clearly, yeah. Lee, did you say it was 10 kilometers an hour difference between not making the corner and between making the corner and crashing?
That's what I read. Yeah.
Yeah. So it means that's 6 miles per hour. So not a huge amount, but clearly enough to tilt the end of that car around. And I thought maybe that was a problem that Mercedes were going to have throughout the rest of the weekend. Sprint race and then main Grand Prix, but it didn't. They clearly sorted it out before that. Matt, who was with.
I was going to say, I don't know what the Parc Fermé regulations are for sprint weekends. Whether they're actually allowed to change anything on the rear wing or not, because they're normally anything on the rear wing is normally frozen at the end of at the start of quali when you leave the pits at the start of Q1.
Yeah, but then there was a whole argument as to why we were practicing under Parc Fermé regulations at FP3 before the sprint. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's when the sprint starts. I have no idea. But also, Matt was with us on Saturday, wasn't he? We were talking about the qualifying crashes with Mercedes, and he was saying that looked like almost like a slam dunk gearbox change on both Mercs because they both hit lateral force on a rear wheel.
Well, Lewis had to change his entire chassis. The right-hand side crash structure was too badly damaged. So by the time the sprint rolled around, Lewis was sat in a new tub.
Yeah, but did he need a new gearbox?
I didn't actually check up on that, and I've not seen anything come through to say that he did. But of course, gearbox use has changed now, so it's not an immediate penalty if you put a new one in there. They're now limited in the same way that all other power unit components are.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be one that's been taken out. Could be a new one that's been taken out of the pool for both of them. Yeah. We've got 2 weeks between the next race. So I'm sure there's going to be lots of time for plenty of technical updates. And Scarbs, answer your tweets. Come back. On Red Bull, though, Perez, obviously they retired the car because it was too badly damaged to carry on. That is something that we're going to be seeing a lot of now that the cost cap is in full effect. Where it's a bit beat up. Keep going. You might get a point or two. Now they've got to really sort of calculate risk reward. For is it worth keeping on going? Yeah, we can get a couple of points, but how much is it going to cost us to repair what's gradually being damaged while the car's going round?
Yeah, they are saying as well, aren't they, that they'll take points off of teams if they overspend in the budget cap, so that they don't get the monetary gains from being higher up in the standings.
Is it just the teams that are being penalised, or is it the drivers that are going to suffer for it as well? Because I don't know. That seems to be a favourite of making the driver suffer for a team mistake.
Yeah, that's I don't know. Did you penalise the driver? I don't know. Strange one.
Yeah, because driver salaries aren't included in the cost cap, so maybe what the driver does shouldn't be. On the other side of that garage, though, Max in second, the tyres just did not last.
I don't know if they didn't last. They told him to push, didn't they, when they realised what pace Ferrari had? So they just straight away, I think they decided that they were just going to get him to push instead of manage, and try and two-stop and get as much pace out of the car as they could. They were saying on Sky that it was the cooler conditions that suited the Ferrari on the Sunday than they did on the Saturday, which then Martin Brundle questioned, well, why didn't Charles Leclerc stick it down the inside of Max Verstappen on Saturday? I'll tell you exactly why he didn't do that on Saturday, because he would have started at the back of the grid.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't want to say it's like a Ferrari resurgence, because, Sainz was on his way to passing Max for second when his car decided to become a barbecue. And, but yeah, Verstappen did the best job that he could in a car that he couldn't quite make work. And second place is a decent return for that, let's be honest.
Yeah.
You're not going to be too upset with that. Still leads the championship by a whole load of points. And will probably be the favourite to win the championship still, I would think. I don't think that Charles Leclerc and Ferrari are back in it just yet. Not
yet, and even if there were, you'd expect something to go wrong because it's what happens to Ferrari. But
there's going to be more DNFs for Charles Leclerc and engine penalties coming.
It's
there's
a
fundamental problem. Fundamental problem with that car.
Yeah, Ferrari can either have a quick engine or a reliable engine. by the looks of things. Magnussen was saying that he was concerned about his engine misfiring as well later on in the race.
What, his engine was misfiring? He was concerned about
it was misfiring, and he was concerned whether it was going to last or not.
Oh, got you. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, Red Bull are looking at the tyre degradation issue, and at the moment they don't know why. So what I'm thinking is they probably do know why, and it'll be sorted for the next race, which is typical Red Bull style. And that just leaves Ferrari. I mean, we've already talked about the Carlos Sainz fire. He was having a good race up to that point, like you say, Chris. He was pushing for second. I think he had the pace to get it.
Well, yeah, he was literally just about to pull alongside Max when his car decided to go pop.
And Leclerc's worries at the end with a sticking throttle.
Is that psychological or was that an actual thing?
No, that was an actual thing. The throttle couldn't bounce back all the way up, so it was leaving it on the revs. Even though the throttle it's still drive by wire, but obviously the sensor was detecting that the throttle was pushed in, so it was keeping the revs higher than they needed to be. So he was having trouble with downshifts because he said he was particularly worried for turn 3. Which is the hardest braking, lowest speed corner.
Yeah, he did lose a lot of pace in the last couple of laps, didn't he? But luckily, by that point, he had enough in hand to make sure that he could stay ahead. If there'd been a full safety car instead of a virtual for the Sainz fire, then I think Leclerc and Verstappen might have swapped places again.
That would have just depended on Verstappen's tyres, because I mean Verstappen started to catch at the end and then fell away again. Because
I thought he closed the gap quite a lot in the last couple of laps.
I think in the last 2 laps Verstappen closed, but he'd already dropped. He gained a little, then dropped back when the tyres went, and then gained a little more when Leclerc slowed down.
Okay, got you. So yeah. We'll never know. But yeah, great win for Charles Leclerc to even manage that problem at the end. His first win where he hasn't started on pole position. Depending on what you bloody call pole position. Pole position qualifying or sprint. But the both of them were Max Verstappen anyway.
Yeah, started from the front spot on the grid.
Yeah.
Actually, just side note, this weekend is another successful story for the sprint race, I think.
It is.
That circuit suits a sprint race, I think.
I like it. There just seems to be higher stakes in a sprint race weekend. Not just the points, it's the extra, like, things can happen to fuck your weekend up.
Yeah, I mean you've got a third more racing laps to do. So you've got to make sure that the car can actually last that long. And you've got to look at, running on a third of a tank. What does it do on a third of a tank on a fresh set of tyres? Which probably isn't a simulated run that they're used to doing during practice. But you only get the 2 practices before it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you've got more to learn and less time to learn it in.
Yes.
Which means that inherently you've got to take more risks. And strategy risks are what we watch F1 for. And usually take the piss out of Ferrari because of.
I was just going to say, not for strong points.
Yeah.
Right. So, that leaves our usual rock stars and wankers. I think Leclerc in the Rockstar category.
Yeah, I mean, for just getting that car round the way he did at the end and not losing to Max. Apparently, he had to lift and coast quite a lot, like through corners, because just to allow himself to know what the throttle was doing. And it must be a very scary thing. I mean, if it's just stuck to a bit, to a point, you don't know if that problem's going to get worse, and you're going to come into, like, say the last corner, for instance, because of how quick that is, and all of a sudden your car won't slow down. It's that must be a fucking awkward position to have yourself.
Definitely. Other rock stars. Alonso, pit lane to points. Well,
Yeah.
back to points.
100%.
Russell.
Yep.
Essentially the same thing. Pit lane to fourth, and what 14 was he 14 seconds behind Hamilton, or did he drop back to 16?
Think it was about 16 in the end.
I think at one point the lowest it was down to was 14. I'm sure I'm
17.7.
Either way, to be to have that happen in the first lap, go to last, have to work your way back through, and to be less than 20 seconds down on Hamilton, and essentially less than a pit stop down on him.
Did Hamilton have an extra pit stop, or did Russell also take one as well?
I think Russell took one as well. Not sure.
Yeah, they had the same number of pit stops. They both two stopped.
Yeah. So fair play then. A great drive by George to get back up that far.
Yeah. What else we got? Haas with the double points. Wings Triumphant, who always sends us rock stars and wankers. He said, "Going to say track limits. Drivers need to get over themselves and stick to the track limits. If they want to keep overstepping them, then I'm more than in favour of punishing them. Time to take this seriously."
Yeah,
I'll go with
absolutely.
that. Yeah, I'll go with that. Wankers. A lot of the fans, because apparently there was nasty behaviours going on.
Yeah, I heard
nobody should go to a race and have shit shouted at them.
Seems to happen a lot, doesn't it? Like this goes back to the same thing I was talking about with social media, Formula One social media fans, and I can only think that it's because we've got ourselves in that unfortunate situation again, which I think, unfortunately for Formula One, it's a situation it needs itself to be in because it wants the Sunday afternoon. I don't really watch Formula One, but I'll watch the race now and again. You know, there's been the big grab to get the casual fans back. And unfortunately, when you get people that aren't really into the sport, engaging, they do tend to be pretty nasty. Yeah, I think there's
these were people who were at the circuit, weren't
they?
Yeah. They paid tickets, so there was apparently sexist abuse and racist.
That's what
abuse.
I mean. I think it's the same people that have spilt onto the racetrack. Like I think that I'll get shouted at here from both camps of people, but I think
sexist and racist.
Yeah, I think like not all, but and definitely not all. But I think recent fans are in the Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen camp are all pretty fucking horrible people, to be perfectly honest. Right, they're both sides of, and I think it's almost like a Blur and Oasis thing because you've got each side has managed to make the other driver their antagonist.
And ironically, Suede and Pulp were both better.
Yeah. Ooh. Controversial.
Yeah, but true.
Manson's better than all of them. But yeah, I just think unfortunately we've got ourselves this group of fans. They don't really care about motor racing. They probably don't watch qualifying. They probably don't watch full races. They probably only go online when their hero has won or they need to jeer at their fucking nemesis.
So the wrestling style fans is basically
pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Moving on to other wankers, the Ferrari engine, described as a frag grenade. Certainly Carlos is. He's also put Aston Martin just in general for a really shit season and performance so far. And where do we give the participation award to? Because there's a lot of candidates this week.
Latifi. Oh. Okay.
Yeah, Latifi, we didn't even see him retire, did we? I don't remember
and
it anyway.
I think we still saw more of him than Albon, who was running 10th and didn't get a mention. Yeah, I think that there's many participation awards. Just to make it fair, we'll give out lots, but we won't say who to. One other rock star to mention this week, tattoo designer Kenny Tyson, who is coming up with some tattoo concept art just in general because that's what he does, and he sent us an absolutely amazing 3 legs 4 wheels one.
Fucking awesome.
Which if I was the kind of person to have a tattoo, because I've got to 52 and I've not had one yet, I would actually get that. And if anyone wants to see it, it's I think I may have shared it on Instagram, but I'll put it up on our socials. It was definitely on Twitter, but I'll repost it.
Still not completely convinced I'm not going to get it on my leg, if I'm honest.
Do you know what? I am kind of tempted to get it myself, but
yeah, I originally said it wouldn't go with the other tattoos I've got on my arms, and my friend Susie messaged me and said we could definitely put it on your leg. I'm like, oh, okay.
With me as a completely blank canvas with a lot of space to work on, unfortunately, I'm pondering that. I'll give it some thought. Tweet #PaulTat yes or #PaulTat no.
There is no second hashtag.
It's not a binding vote. I just want to see what people's opinions are. Purely an advisory referendum. Oh, hang on, shit, where have I heard that before? Right, we're disappearing before we get too far into politics. So much for our quick little show tonight. We've got 2 hours.
Yeah, God,
a great chat with Cameron.
But thank you again to Cameron for coming on, and best of luck for the rest of this season. And like I said at the time, if your company, your organisation is in a position to offer sponsorship to Cameron, get in touch with us, 3legs4wheels@gmail.com, and we'll put you in touch. Obviously, we've got the website, 3legs4wheels.com, and we're at 3legs4wheels on the socials, and individually on Twitter we are...
At Flood21.
At A Total Shunt.
Sean is at Sean Cowper, and I am at Pablo100. Also, if you want to help us get the show out and keep the show running, you can subscribe to Patreon, which is patreon.com/3legs4wheels. $1, €1, £1 or similar per month. You get the show a little bit extra, no adverts on the rare occasions we've got advertising in, and the occasional extra Patreon show, and lots of other goodies besides when we do them. Right, we'll be back next week. I think we'll have a preview of the French Grand Prix and whatever else we may find. So, wishing Sean and my dad get well soon.
Absolutely.
And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Indeed.
Ciao.
Bye.